bro, this is your first tour, man. Like,
I'm not going to see them race together until the tour. They're not going to want any of that smoke.
holy moly, that guy was on fire, picking up right where he left off.
The only reason I want to talk about him is because I think we need to lump him into the American category.
Watching it going like, yeah, Remco, welcome to the world as like the a premier top line favorite. Like you're not going to win all the time. Welcome back to Beyond the Podium. Brent and Bookwalter here, joined by Tejay van Garderen. We're going to get right into it. We got an exciting racing week that we're capping off at Paris-Nice. We have two Americans on the podium, Brandon McNulty, Matteo Jorgensen. We're going to talk about the big four for the Tour de France, where they all stand after these last couple of weeks of racing. What's up with Primož Roglič? We're going to talk about some of the races coming up. Milan-San Remo, Volta, Catalunya preview. Might touch on these crazy out-of-this-world time trial helmet tech that we've been seeing and is hyped the past couple of weeks. That's what we got coming up today. But first, before we get into that, TJ, I'm back here with you, man. Tejay van Garderen, you guys probably remember him from the race days. I remember him from our time together as teammates. We spent countless days and nights, weeks, months, monking out on the top of a mountain preparing for races and doing all these races together as well. Paris-Nice, Tour de France. So TJ, you're back here. We're back together. What are you up to? Where are you at? Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, man, great to see you. Yeah, all those years as a teammate with you, I probably spent more time with you than I did with my own wife. But no, it's great to see you again. You look great. Enjoying retirement. Right now I'm in Andorra, doing a little camp with the team before Catalunya. I got my family up here, so going to try to sneak onto the ski slopes for a little bit. And yeah, other than that, I've been directing with EF for the past 3 years. This is my third year. Also directing for the USA national team for the Worlds and the Olympics. So had a pretty full plate since my retirement, but definitely enjoying the other side of things.
It's good to see you're still embracing that shoddy European internet. Might be a little choppy here for our Beyond the Podium episode today, but yeah, man, I'm psyched to be back with you. Psyched to talk bike racing. And honestly, I'm glad that you've been in the mix. I know you've already had a really stacked calendar of races that you've been in the car already for Team EF. And I got to admit, I'm just sort of getting opened up in terms of my bike race spectating form. I was pretty out of the loop in some of these early season races, but I got to say, like, I was just woken up this past week, which I think leads us right into that first topic of Americans on the podium at Paris-Nice. Whoa, I knew these guys were capable of it, but seeing the way they raced, seeing how they executed, and then seeing that stacked field that they were up against. I mean, TJ, you yourself have done some really powerful rides at Paris-Nice. We both know everything that race entails, the miserable weather, the huge amounts of climbing stacked up into the end of it. What does that mean for these two guys in American cycling?
Look, I mean, to be up there in Paris-Nice, you have to be the most complete rider. There's nothing that Paris-Nice leaves off the table. You got crosswind, you got bad weather, you got climbs. They did a team time trial this year. Usually it's an individual time trial, but I mean, it's a full complete test. And the fact that we had two guys up there, Matteo and Brandon, that's incredible. That shows a lot, and how young they are too. That just shows huge things for the future.
Yeah, I was really psyched to see Matteo pull off the win, and I gotta say, like, I was a little surprised that he could pull off the win. I saw his team give him that #1 bib as team leader, which in a new team, in such a stacked team, I was kind of opening my eyes, like, whoa, these guys they're backing him. That brought me back to one of my favorite memories of Matteo, which was at the Tour de France 2 years ago. His first tour, I was not racing the race. I was working the race, also commentating on it and contributing to it. And I watched Matteo get into one of these race-winning breakaways in his first tour. It actually went to the line. He was, inches off, feet off the win. And I was jumping up and down. I could not believe it. First Tour de France, almost wins the stage. And the guy crosses the line, and he is just... He feels defeat, frustration. He is so mad at himself, irate, because he felt the win. He knew he was capable of it. And I'm like, bro, this is your first tour, man. Like, you got in a breakaway. You got in a winning breakaway. You were there to fight. And he's like, no, that's not enough, man. Like, I'm here to win. So it's been awesome to see that he's been able to continue that and channel that and cultivate it into a big win at one of the world's most premier races.
Oh, he's a champion for sure. I mean, he's a competitor. Anything you want to say, any cliche you want to throw. I mean, he's got that it factor that it's not going to be enough. So no, he's going to be psyched with this win, but it's only going to motivate him for more. And yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that he was pissed after that tour stage, because that's just the kind of person he is.
Well, and you said the it factor. I think, like, speaking of being it, man, Tejay, you know what it's like to be it in terms of American cycling. You were touted as the next great American Grand Tour contender. You finished top 5 in the Tour de France 2 times. You got to know now, Matteo Jorgensen, Brandon McNulty, us Americans, we love a winner. We want a winner. We want to see an American win the Tour de France again. So inevitably, Brandon, Matteo, we have a host of other Americans. Nielsen Paulus, Sepp Kuss is already a Grand Tour winner. They're for sure going to be labeled and hyped as the next winner of the Tour de France. How is that going to affect him? And do you think these guys can shoulder that weight that you felt? You know what that's like. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I think these guys are all pretty cool kids. I don't see that being as much of a factor. I mean, you got to remember that all the guys you just mentioned, between Matteo, Sepp, they're both on Jumbo-Visma, and they have the winner of the past 2 tours. And Brandon, he's on UAE. He's got, the winner of also 2 tours before that. So I don't think a whole lot of pressure is going to be heaped on them, and not a whole lot of expectation. I think they should just get to the tour, help their leader, and then shine through in that way. Kind of the same way Sepp Kuss did. He was up there in the mountains, shepherding his leader, whittling the group down to just 3 or 4 guys. If these guys can show that they can do that, then they're going to get their chance the same way Sepp did in the Vuelta. And they just progress naturally, rather than getting way out ahead of themselves, thinking, oh, I'm going to be the next Tour de France winner for America before they're really ready for it.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, you talked about just now, both of those guys ride for the premier Tour de France, some of the premier Tour de France contenders, the favorites. Everyone's kind of hyping them as the big 4 this year. You got Jonas Vingegaard, Tadej Pogačar, Remco Evenepoel, Primož Roglič on a new team. So let's assess. Let's go through this report card. Where are those guys at? I think one of the big surprises for me after Paris-Nice was Primož Roglič. It was his first race of the year, so I'll give him that. He didn't get to prep with another series of races like many of these guys did, but a lot of people are saying he's a little off the back. 10th place at Paris-Nice for a Tour de France contender. I'd agree. I think not a stellar standout showing. I think he's played it down. He's saying everything's under control. The win at Paris-Nice is not going to change my life. I'd agree with him there, but I'd also say that seeing the way Primož Roglič has raced in the past, the guy is an assassin. He does not take any prisoners. He loves stamping his authority on races, sprinting for bonus seconds, attacking guys even when he's winning. So I got to think that Primož and his Bora team are a little disappointed with that 10th place at Paris-Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's full panic right now, but I mean, I was looking at where he lost the time. Okay, he lost 53 seconds in the team time trial. You minus 20 seconds because UAE just kind of blew everyone else out. So he only lost like 20 seconds. At the end of the day, he was 5.5 minutes down. So what are we going to, I mean, what are we supposed to do with those other 5 minutes?
Where are we going to get those?
I don't really buy the whole thing. Yeah, I don't really buy the whole thing with it's his first race of the year. I was directing Tirreno Adriatico last year, and he won like 10 of the 8 stages, and it was his first race of the year. And just like you said, he was an assassin, blew everyone out of the water. And I was like, when I saw him at Paris-Nice, he's never been the guy to just ride away and gain 5 minutes the way Vingegaard does, but he holds the wheels, he nickels and dimes. Sometimes he goes for bonus seconds. He'll always win in a sprint. He was kind of relegated to the wheels in this race, and then lost huge chunks on that final day, which was suited to him perfectly. He does good in cold weather. He does good in technical stuff. Obviously, he can climb. I mean, the change to the team could, like, that change of scenery, new bike, all that stuff. You can kind of give him a little leeway there, but I don't know. It's not like he went from to a small program. I mean, Boro's a powerhouse squad with good support. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where Roglic goes from here. Usually you don't see races like that from Primoz.
Yeah, I'd agree. Not a disaster for Primoz, but when you put him up against the other three in this big four report card, everyone else has came out and, for all intents and purposes, just crushed it. We got Jonas Vingegaard over in Tirreno Adriatico the past week. Holy moly, that guy was on fire, picking up right where he left off. Of course, his first race of the year, the Grand Camino, where he won a couple stages. People can argue, well, he's a multi-time Tour de France winner. This is a lower level race. Of course, he's going to bust everyone's doors down. But Tirreno Adriatico, this is one of the premier races of the spring. A lot of guys, strong teams have a bullseye on that race, and he still made quick work of them with a multi-minute winning margin. So obviously a really strong start for him. And then, his prime Tour de France contender today, Pogačar. We haven't seen him race a ton this year, but that move he pulled in Strada Bianca, that was one for the record books. That solo move, just pure class, pure physicality, showing that he was at purely another level. So, looking at those two guys, it's going to be really excited to, I guess, see how they individually both play out, because as we talked about before, they're ducking each other. They're not going to line up against each other for a long time. And I kind of see it, but I kind of want to call them on it too. I mean, give the people what they want. Give us a preview. Give us that meaty showdown of the Tour de France before we get there.
Oh yeah, those guys, I think we're not going to see them race together until the Tour. They're not going to want any of that smoke. And going back to Tirreno Adriatico, I know that Jonas, he had a super impressive ride, but one thing that Tirreno was missing from traditional Tirreno Adriatico was that one stage with those crazy narrow roads, the super steep climbs, the super technical, like cobbles, it was either kind of a sprint or a summit finish or like a genuine GC day. It missed sort of that kind of Tour of Flanders or Amstel Gold sort of race that Tirreno usually has. And that's something that I would want to see Jonas tested at, because I think that if I were to test those guys or compare those guys side by side, Pogačar and Jonas, Pogačar would have the nod in that. Like, he can win in a technical battle, straight power to weight ratio, endurance battle. Like, I think Jonas, we all know what he is. We didn't see any surprises from him, but we didn't really see him tested. I was a little disappointed with that Tirreno course. What do you think?
Yeah, now that I'm watching it and not racing. But yeah, I mean, Tirreno is always known for having these elimination death march matches where, 80% of the field is just looking at the time cut and looking at the ridiculous amount of laps they have to do up some 20% grade, crazy go-kart track finishing circuit. And yeah, that was missing this year, which as a competitor, it's like, come on, thank you. We don't, a lot of these guys are saying we don't need that. But yeah, I agree. If there was going to be a sort of chink in Jonas's armor, it might be in that slightly more technical, risk-prone sort of environment and stage, and we didn't get to see that in Tirreno this year. But we do have the next race on his calendar, I believe, is a Tour of the Basque Country, and that race is littered with those kind of stages. And we will see a match up against Primoz Roglic there and Remco Evenepoel. So we're going to get to see 3 of the big 4 there. And then Pogačar, we're going to get to see him just next week at Milan-San Remo.
I wanted to talk about Evenepoel also, and the way that he tried to just ride everyone off his wheel.
The last day.
I feel like he's just, I know he's got a little bit of this arrogance about him,
Yeah.
Where he's, where he just says like, oh, he'll get dropped eventually. And it's like, okay.
It was
show the guy some respect. You got to at least, yeah.
I thought it was kind of nice it was sort of like, I was kind of like watching it going like, yeah, Remco, welcome to the world as like a premier top line favorite. Like you're not going to win all the time. And in fact, like, you might even have to get a little creative in how you're beating these guys and not be complacent like you were, and really respect them. It's like a nice little, maybe I felt more that way because it was an American that was like taking it to him. But I sort of felt like
it's like,
yeah, man, it's not going to be so easy.
He dominated so much as a junior that he was always just like, whenever I ride hard, no one's left on my wheel. And he's kind of been able to get away with that a little bit in the pros, that he never actually learned how to race a bike because he never had to.
Yep.
And then now it's like, it's becoming this sort of, I like that he gets put in his place sometimes, because I'm a big fan of Evenepoel. I don't want to talk smack about him, but he does have this sort of arrogance, like, okay, when I'm ready to go, no one's going to follow me.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, when you meet your match every now and then, you might actually have to figure out how to win by more of a traditional, tactical, nuanced way, like everyone else in history has had to do. Yeah. But I like that, that Matteo was able to put him in his place like that. So Milan-San Remo, let's go there. I mean, that's one of those races that it's so hard to predict. You can look at any team. There's probably 20, 25 guys that line up at the start with the possibility to win. And Pogacar is definitely high on that list. Yeah, I'd put him as a 5-star. If he wants to win, he has to go on the Podio, but he has to go on the top on that steep section, get a gap, hold it on the descent, and then carry that gap through the Via Roma and hope that no team's strong enough to get organized. And even if they are strong enough to get organized, usually if you get a gap with Pogacar, you're not going to see it back. So if he gets that gap, he can definitely do it. I mean, we have Jasper Philipsen, who's also teammates with Mathieu van der Poel. Philipsen just won a stage in Tirreno. Van der Poel, he's the reigning champion, but first race of the year, so we'll see. I don't even use the excuse anymore of the first race of the year, because it seems like everyone's firing on all cylinders every time they go. But then behind them, you got Mohoric, you got Pidcock, you got Girmay, and Jonathan Milan. He's a guy who won a few stages of Tirreno Adriatico in a pretty hard race, a pretty impressive fashion. So he'll be a new guy to kind of look for.
Yeah, I think Milan for sure. But if we're going to talk about him, his teammate Mads Pedersen, he's sort of my pick. He's sort of I got the star kind of by him. I think he's shown really good form already this year. He's shown high confidence the way his team has rode for him. Coming off 2 6th places the last 2 years at Milan-San Remo. I think it could be Pedersen's year if he can stay in that group that undoubtedly Pogacar is going to try to blow away over the top of the Poggio. And likely it will come down to that. I think Milan-San Remo for me it's sort of one of the most boring races to watch if you tune in for hour after hour of the early proceedings, but definitely one of the most exciting, thrilling finales. Those last 20 minutes are just edge of the seat stuff. And it is worth noting it's going to be, I think, 40 kilometers shorter this year. They're not going to have that traditional start out of Milan. I don't think that's really going to change anything. I think some of the traditionalists will be a little sad that it's not hitting that 300-kilometer mark, but we know the riders aren't going to complain. I think, me as a fan, I'm not going to complain. It's just going to shave 40 minutes or so, an hour off the race, and we're still going to see that brilliant battle over the Cipressa and ideally the Poggio and the Via Roma.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there is something to tradition. I like cycling to hang on to tradition. The fact that it was almost 300 kilometers, that was always kind of cool. It was the longest monument. But I mean, those were all just junk miles, if we can be honest. And it's still long enough that you're getting that endurance. But the length of the races these days, these guys, they eat so much. And it's almost like with as much as they take on as fuel, it's almost twice as much as what we did in our day, Brent. And so it's almost like they can do the same power in the last hour that they can do in the first hour. And so I don't think it's going to change the race at all. I don't think it would have changed the race to have it 40K longer. It's not going to change it to have it 40K shorter. It's going to be all about the battle, and they're still going to be able to produce that high watts in the end.
It's funny you mentioned the food. That's one thing I remember the most from the one time I did Milan-San Remo was being at the dinner table the night before the race, some of my teammates being Italian, and then just kind of saying, hey, rookie, pay attention to what we're doing. We're eating piles and piles of pasta. And these dudes, remember Alessandro Ballan ate like 4 massive face-high plates of pasta. Just, I don't even know where it went, just packing it in there. And that, even in our career, that was the way you did it. You front loaded it. Now these guys are doing 120 grams of carbohydrates per hour. Whereas even in our career, we packed it in before. And then it was the joke that don't crash before the feed zone, because if you DNF before the feed zone, they got to take you away and like pump your stomach out, because you're going to have so much stuff in you that it's got nowhere to go. So yeah, hopefully some more moderate pre-fueling consumption from the guys this year with 40 kilometers less, but, will definitely be an exciting race to tune into. And I think, yeah, again, the highlight is going to be seeing one of our Tour de France contenders, Tadej Pogacar, how he performs. And, if he can outfox some of the sprinters and fast men that, will have that Milan-San Remo circled on their calendar. So going from San Remo, then, it actually is going to happen before San Remo. We got the Volta Catalunya. TJ, this is a race that I think we can both kind of riff on. We've both done this race as roommates together. You were always a contender at Volta Catalunya. It was, on sort of some of my home roads, living in Girona for most of my career, and many of the Peloton, very familiar roads, living in Andorra, Girona. I think this year's Volta Catalunya is very much the template Catalunya, super climbing heavy. Some high altitude climbs, especially for when we're talking about in the spring season. It's March. They're still skiing up in La Molina, up in Andorra. TJ, you said you're in Andorra right now, so maybe you can give us a little bit of a weather report. But what can these guys expect from the Volta Catalunya, and who are we talking about to be the big favorites there?
Well, anytime Pogacar lines up on the start, he's going to be a favorite. It's like, I hope it's not just who's racing for second, but, the other names on there, we're going to have Vlasov there. We're going to have Enric Mas there. We're going to have Sepp Kuss there. We're bringing Hugh Carthy and Esteban Chavez for EF. Hopefully they can have some good rides. In many ways, it is a very traditional template Catalunya. We got Voltaire 2000. They hit that quite often, won by yours truly, 2014, little humble brag. We have that Port d'An. I remember racing up that. But one stage that's going to throw a wrench in the whole thing is going to be stage 6. It's Berga to Berga, and they do this crazy loop, super narrow roads, super steep climbs. It's rare that climbs in Catalunya get over 10%. And this day, it's going to be like, honestly, it's going to look similar to the last day of Paris-Nice, only the climbs are steeper. It's going to be a brutal one. I mean, it could be one for a breakaway. I mean, that climb that you see right there, that Pardel, that's like, I think it's like, I can't remember how many kilometers it is, but it's over 10%, and it's a solid like 7K. Short stage, only 154K, but you don't really usually see stages like this in Vuelta Catalunya.
Savage, no doubt. And that area, yeah, it's not really the big Pyrenees. It's not the massive mountains. It's not as big of a climb as Voltaire 2000, like you mentioned, the Port d'Ain. But the preceding pre-Pyrenees is a region that is awesome for riding a bike. It is beautiful to go up there on a nice weather day and to cruise around those super narrow, steep, twisty mountain roads. But that will be savage and filthy to race, especially on stage 6. And I think you're right that sort of is the pin that's pulled out of the template of the usual Volta Catalunya. They usually have those 2 big mountain stage sort of stacked right in the middle or the first half, and then they sort of just transition back out to the coast. I mean, this year they basically do the full lap of Catalunya. They get all the way to Barcelona after stage 5. Then they're going to make them get in the buses, go all the way back up to Berga, and definitely deliver a really exciting stage. I think for sure, since we're on this American love fest, this roll of Americans we just had at Paris-Nice, I like my man Sepp Kuss. I know Sepp trains around there a lot. His wife is from not too far from that area. And I think that's an awesome stage for him the whole way through Catalunya. Great profile for him, but he for sure will not be surprised by those roads. And hopefully we'll see an awesome performance by Sepp Kuss after his big win in the Vuelta last year.
Yeah, I mean, I would say he's probably probably the closest challenger to Pogačar that I would put on paper at that race. And that stage 6 could be a really good opportunity for him. Like, you got to isolate him from his team, maybe do some technical stuff. I know Pogačar, he doesn't have a whole lot of weaknesses, but if Sepp Kuss can take advantage of his strong team, he can maybe try something on that stage. Or if not there, you also got the Barcelona stage, and that circuit is anything can happen there.
Oh, I hated that thing. That the amount of times that I left Barcelona just feeling like I was totally wrung out at the end of the Grand Tour, and it only raced for 7 days. I think it's near 100% rate for me finishing the Volta Catalunya. Just a brutal way to finish that race, that Montjuic circuit. I know you probably liked it more than me, TJ. I'd usually been out there, I think, riding in the wind for you all week, and then we get to those circuits, and I just had to survive and try to get back to those buses, and you were up there boxing on with the leaders. So your memories of that stage are for sure better than mine.
Oh no, that was a stage I definitely dreaded the most. I mean, a climb like Voltaire 2000, that was kind of more in my element. Some punchy stuff like that, I was a bit more like, okay, I better hold on and survive and keep all my skin. But no, it was definitely a hard one, and the GC is not over on that day. Anything can happen. I mean, I think we've seen a couple of times where the GC just kind of flips on its head on that day, especially if you add in rain.
Oof, cringing to think about it. Catalunya, there's no time trial there. We're not actually going to see any big headline time trials for a while, but TJ, I want to quickly go back to a good portion of the cycling media hype show from the past couple of weeks. These time trial helmets, man. I cannot tell you the amount of people that I had sending me memes, Instagram posts, photos, asking what's going on with this. Is this a joke? Is this for real? It was kind of the talk of the town. And like you're part of a team, and actually EF, you guys are on the forefront of some of this cutting edge aero technology, and even some of the helmets that I've seen you guys use the past couple of years had that real wild head to shoulder sort of aerodynamic move. Like, what is going on with this TT helmet revolution, and when is it going to end? Where is it going to end? How is it going to end? Is the UCI going to come in and just say no more of this madness? There's definitely some argument there. I can see the UCI saying, hey, a helmet's designed to protect your head. Let's keep it at that. But the teams are also saying, we're going to innovate. We're going to push on. So I think it also is pretty cool that a team like Visma Lease a Bike has use their time, use their resources in the off season with their partner Giro. They've developed a helmet that they claim is very fast, and yeah, it's an advantage. So what's happening from the inside of the team car in these team time trial helmets?
I don't know, man. I mean, when I saw these helmets, I was like, how is that faster? I mean, yeah, I know that we've had some of those weird looking helmets, and this organization's actually been on the forefront of some of the crazy helmet, like the stubby thing. The helmets, they used to have that really long tail at the end. And we kind of invented that stubby, and it looks kind of ridiculous, but now it looks kind of commonplace. So these might look funny now, but maybe after a while we'll get used to it, and it, like, whatever was 5 years ago is going to look funny. But it did get me thinking, like, what was the coolest era of TT helmets? I mean, like pre-crash helmet requirement in TTs, when they got to use those head fairings, like it was just like super long and thin and just molded straight to your head. Didn't help at all in a crash, but those things looked cool. They were dope. And like Lance Armstrong, I remember he had that sort of cut off sort of triangle on the back. I mean, I don't know why that never caught on, because I thought that was the coolest looking helmet. And then all of a sudden around like 2005, they started requiring crash helmets for TTs, and everyone started looking like Spaceballs, like, yeah, like those big, like Lord helmet on Spaceballs. I don't know. We're probably dating ourselves with that movie, but I don't know, the coolest era of TT helmets. I don't know. It has to be like back when they got to wear those head fairings and everything was just like super smooth and slick.
That was sleek. I mean, riding around in their old school bikes with the cables everywhere. And then they had this like space age helmet just trailing all the way down, ponytailing down to their tail. Yeah, that was sweet. I mean, I gotta say, as a racer, my favorite era was that time when they were instituting the TT helmets to actually be safe, which is a lot of our career, and no one was really testing to that level yet. It was just like, it's got a little bit of turbulence deflection behind your head. Just never mind your position, never mind how it fits in your shoulders. Just put that thing on, go. Like, it was a lot about just riding your bike and doing power and being able to handle the TT bike. Then it's blowing my mind now what these teams are going to and the lengths the riders are going through to perfect their positions in their frontal area. And frankly, I mean, as a former rider, it looks miserable. My back is just rejoicing that I'm no longer having to go through that. But yeah, they're definitely putting on a spectacle for us, and the speeds just keep getting faster and faster. So who knows what they come up with next? Can't wait to see the next version of Spaceballs coming to us in the next PT we see. TJ, you got anything else for us?
Let's see. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Juan Ayuso. I mean, I've been a big fan of his now for a while. And the only reason I want to talk about him is because I think we need to lump him into the American category. I know that it says Spain next to his name in the results, but he has, I think, an American parent. I can't remember if it's mother or father. I spoke with him last year at a race, and he speaks American the way you and I speak American with each other. He has American in passport, grew up in America, lived there till he was like 14. So Juan, I don't know if you're going to watch this podcast, but if you ever want to come join the U.S. national team, I'll be directing. We could use your services there. And I'm a big fan of you. And I'm sorry, take the Spain next. I love Spain too. No diss to Spain, but we all know that you're American. So come on over to the good side.
Nice, dude. You're enlightening me. That's the next level director inside that I did not know. So all the American fans put Juan Ayuso into that American big group hug and celebrate him too. Can't wait to see what he can manage in this spring campaign. Speaking of the spring campaign, tune into stage 1 of the Volta Catalunya live on Peacock. It's going to be Sunday, March 18th at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until then, enjoy these spring races coming up, and we'll see you soon.
For all your cycling content year-round, subscribe to NBC Sports YouTube page. We got it all.